Good morning, everybody. Just a bit after 9 a.m. now. What time are we? Don't want to overrun too much. Probably will anyway. Have we all had our coffee or tea? I am British. I brought my own. Don't worry if you're still a bit sleepy. I'll ease you in with a story. About 4 years ago, I had an interesting opportunity to review the code of none other than the inventor of the World Wide Web, Sir Tim Berners-Lee. Note that he's not the inventor of the internet. BBC have got that one wrong before as well. It's a personal bugbear of mine. Needless to say, I was really interested to find out what Sir Tim's JavaScript and HTML, what magic and secrets are in there from the master. I had to be quite tactful with my review. The coding style was just a little bit dated. I mean, he did use the blink tag, which has been deprecated for about 20 years. And he didn't have a huge number of unit tests. And they say you shouldn't meet your heroes. And I think for us tech people, maybe you shouldn't review your hero's code. But as the creator of the World Wide Web, I imagine he had some expectations for how it was going to be used. Of course, yes, for animated under construction GIFs. All very nice, but I wonder what Sir Tim makes of these kind of examples of the modern web. Bang, cookie banner, bang. Awful advert. And you notice the advert's got little X's on it. So I kept clicking on it thinking, oh, that's the close button. And then there's unfortunately you can't capture this on the screen grab, but auto-playing videos, more mid-roll ads, just general nonsense. And it's all rather rage-inducing. I hate using the web nowadays. I mean, they've taken the simple purity of it and turned it into an awful experience. Shame on us all. It could have been beautiful, now I think it's barely usable. So Tim does worry about becoming the next Oppenheimer, based on this quote here. And I think if you put a hat on him, he kind of even looks the part. So, except that the web is kind of far more insidious than any atomic bomb, really. And if the web is powerful, I believe AI has much more power still. Anyway, welcome to Symbiotic Futures, the human-machine love affair and the evolution of experience, and that's quite a mouthful of a title. We'll talk a little bit about AI as a disruptor, how we're currently failing pretty hard at implementing it, and how we can maybe do better. We'll cover 3 key areas of AI user experience. These 3 key areas being trust, connection, and joint benefits. Now, it may be a bit much for a morning, so I will also provide you with some frameworks as well you can use along the way if you don't remember it all. But feel free to take pictures. I wondered how all this text would turn up on this screen. I don't think I needed to worry, did I? It's massive. Anyway, but I should introduce myself. Hello, I'm Jeff Watkins. I'm the CTO for a consultancy called Create Future. I write a lot on AI and cybersecurity. I've been lucky enough to be featured in Wired, Forbes, and Raconteur multiple times, amongst other publications. And of course, I get to speak around Europe on the topics as well, and even keynote like today. Thank you very much, Web DevCon, App DevCon, and Dawn Technology, great new brand. If anybody wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, here's a QR code. Hopefully it'll work on a cinema screen. No idea if it will. But I work on real AI enablement and delivery programs, and I feel like this topic really flies under the radar, and people just press on and build stuff anyway. I think it's important for us to consider how humans and AI interact, and will interact in the future, because this is a really, really quickly moving topic. Especially here for App DevCon, et al. I'm sure you've all already, or will be soon, building apps that have got AI interactions built in. All right, hands up, who's putting AI into apps at the moment? Or has done recently, do you know that's more hands than I thought it would be? Cool, well, hopefully this is helpful then, and please don't do evil stuff, thanks. Okay, so why was I blithering about the web and its failings? Because I think it was the last great disruptive technology. I mean, I maybe include the smartphone in that as well, but things like crypto, blockchain, Web 3.0 are fine, but they haven't fundamentally changed our way of living. And I bet there's a whole bunch of you in the room that don't remember life without the web. Hands up those born after 1990 or around there. Yeah, so you don't remember. It's kind of depressing for me. I was born a lot earlier than that. You probably don't remember a life before the web. And it really has changed the human experience. I mean, 87% of people do pretty much all their banking online nowadays. Research showing that 21% of people in the UK haven't visited a branch at all in the last year. I mean, I didn't use online banking until last year, but that's because I'm from a financial service background. I used to work on online banking platforms, and I wouldn't trust my money with my code. So I'm not going to tell you which bank I worked with, but if anything happens, I didn't do it. Of course, one of the main victims of the web was the high street. But COVID has obviously really accelerated that. And this is change, it's disruption, it's to be expected. This is the way the world works. With each industrial revolution, this pace of change and disruption, level of disruption is actually increasing. So we've been through 3 industrial revolutions in a living memory, with people arguing that AI represents kind of Industry 5.0, which is very scary. But I think we can all agree it's likely to be significant and transformative. So I think we really should be intentional about, where the people delivering software. It's our time to consider the ramifications of what we're doing and are going to be doing very soon. Now, we can all be trying to be AI refuseniks and say we're not going to put AI in our apps, but then what happens is that's okay for a while, and then eventually you don't have a business model left. And look what happened to blockbusters, Don't be Blockbuster if you can Netflix. We know who won that war. So, although this talk is about user experience, full disclosure, I'm not a user interface designer. In fact, you can see the results of some of my UI design here. This is for a large-scale national system for the NHS. It's a real screenshot of it, and yes, I'm sorry. And if it looks a bit small to read here on the theatre, it was just about as bad in real life. But it's not about that kind of design. It's about experience design. And guess what? I'm not a user experience designer either. However, I am very interested in the intersection between behavioral economics and science and artificial intelligence. And it doesn't take a genius to see, I think, that AI interactions will fundamentally change how we interact with digital services in the modern world. And there's plenty of bad AI experiences out there. Anybody know what this is? It might be a bit small if you can see the back. This is a Rabbit R1, one of several AI assistant devices that have mostly flopped because they were kind of a solution looking for a problem, and they were a worse experience than actually using your phone. Believe me, this is from a point of actually experience here. Hey, what do you think, Rabbit? Do you think that AI assistant devices like yourself and the Humane AI pin have been poorly received? Why? Answer in one sentence. I don't have all day. Hey, Rabbit, why do you think Humane AI pin and Rabbit R1 have been poorly received? Answer in one sentence.
Well, there's your answer.
Yeah, exactly. It's thinking, and it's done not.
It's important to recognize that perceptions can vary widely, but some may feel the concepts presented are not fully resonating or meeting their expectations.
There you go. Well, I was glad I used a Rabbit for that, not a Humane AI pin, given the only thing that works on it now is the battery life indicator. I love how they consider the battery life indicator to be an offline feature. I mean, that's from their own site. I mean, I feel sorry for this dude who wrote an entire book on how to use one, and this dude, and this dude, and this dude. I take some consolation from the fact that these are all probably just generated using ChatGPT anyway. And this guy, he's made an entire cottage industry around using AI tech for healthcare. And I've read some of it, and it's utter trash. It is just GPT-generated garbage. I mean, this guy looks totally legit, doesn't he? He's the first author on the subject of ChatGPT and healthcare. I'm sure there's some things it's like really good to be the first in, but ChatGPT and say like if I wanted to be the first to ChatGPT and nuclear weapons control, I don't think that's one I'll be remembered for really. Anyway, talking to this thing is slower than using a phone, and it adds no value whatsoever. It's a crappy AI experience. I mean, the good thing about it is that it tells everybody you're an insufferable AI geek for no actual benefit. I've got enough use out of this on stage now to justify writing off as a business expense. Anyway, so I'm sure we've all had an AI experience where you've gone into a site, you know what you want, you get in there, and then bing, like, oh no, the notification noises. Bing, bing, bing. And you just hope it'll stop, but it just keeps going. And it keeps filling up your screen. Like, bing, like, my God. It's really, really frustrating. That's not a good AI experience. It's rage-inducing, and this is everywhere in the world of AI and chatbots, and it could easily be avoided. But I think we're all interested in kind of a super personal and connected experience that feels useful. Imagine it's 2 a.m., you're jet-lagged, and you're awake, and your smart assistant says, hey, I hear you're up, Would you like me to adjust the lights and put on some calming music to help you get to sleep? And that kind of subtle, almost human-like anticipation of your needs isn't just a convenience. Then it feels like a connected experience. It feels more relational. And whether we like it or not, we're kind of in a relationship with these machines. Now, designing AI interactions isn't the same thing as UI design or even UX, in my opinion. AI experience design is a distinct topic, but it is one that needs to be interwoven into what we're doing with UI and UX. And from my perspective, though, it's another layer deeper. It's about relationship design. And when it comes to relationships, in my opinion, every great relationship is built on three things: trust, connection, and the belief you are better off together. So now AI is entering our lives. It's not just a tool, but it's actually a partner in our digital interactions. We chat with it, we depend on it, and even form emotional attachments to it. But as with any relationship, we have to ask, can we trust it? Can we connect with it? And does it actually benefit us? Because when it serves us well, it leads to prosperity. It means we're better off together, and it becomes a kind of love. Not that kind of love. But when it's designed poorly, it leads to addiction, manipulation, and loss of autonomy and control. So I'm going to take you over some of my thoughts around how we need to frame all these relationship challenges in order to make a beautiful future for us all. And let's not, in the words of Sir Tim, this is a quote from him, end up producing with no deliberate action of the people who designed the platform a large-scale emergent phenomenon which is anti-human. He's got away with words too. But that's actually, that original quote was in the past tense. He says we ended up producing, because this is his opinion on how the web has turned out. So that in mind, who's been on a dating app? Hands up. Come on. Don't be shy. Yes, I have too. It's awful. But the thing is, you tend to pass judgment on somebody, whether or not you want to swipe left or swipe right, pretty quickly. And the same goes when you're a user, a customer, part of a human-AI interaction. And the quote on this page is from the first page, as the first stage of the human-AI context model by IBM. Now, if I could have just presented this talking about any other thing around human relationships, job interviews, dating, you'd probably agree with it. So let's create a swipe-rightable. Swipe right's the good one, right? I can't remember. Swipe-rightable AI interactions, and that starts with trust. I think this is the primary key for AI interactions. I think it's also probably the simplest part to rock. In the AI world, thanks to a number of embarrassing gaffes, trust is really hard to come by. And there's a big trust gap when it comes to AI. And I argue so UI ethics fall around things like accessibility, clarity, usability, and the concerns of UX are more around user empowerment and avoiding dark patterns. But for AI experience design, you have to think about transparency, privacy, autonomy, control. And when you then weave in things like hallucinations, bias, environmental impact, it's a compound, small set of lacks of trust that build to a bigger trust gap. Now, as a quick trust sidebar, we talk about trust. There's a huge number of topics around trust that are mainly around things like cybersecurity and how the models are created. But this is an experience design talk. And I think the only thing worse than an AI talk at 9 a.m. would be like an AI security talk at 9 a.m. So don't worry, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. And as we show here, people are naturally more guarded right now when it comes to AI interactions. In some cases, it puts people off a product or service, which is interesting given that most people have been using AI for years without realizing. I mean, Netflix's recommender algorithm has been long since AI-based. But if you're building AI-based services, you'll need to build and maintain that trust. And it's based on three key things, in my opinion. Transparency, went too far. Transparency, human control and autonomy, and task competency. And that's just basically doing your job well. So let's look at the most platonic ideal of AI interactions, the one between Dave and HAL 9000, 2001, A Space Odyssey. Notice it's a great interaction. He's consistent and transparent about what he can and can't do. He's polite, and that ends the conversation clearly. Now, given HAL kills the rest of the crew on the spaceship, I'd mark him down a little, and I don't think he's much into human control and autonomy, which is kind of important for trust. So joking aside, what do transparency, consistency, control, autonomy, and competency mean in the world of trustworthy AI? And transparency means clearly communicating how and when an AI system makes its decisions. Humans need to understand AI's reasoning to trust it. It's not just enough to say it said so. It's about getting the why behind the output. But I think for people building apps, it's much more basic than that. Be transparent about when you're using an AI in your interactions. Not everybody is. It doesn't also means don't let AI wash your your system. Don't over-egg what it can do. Be clear about its boundaries of its capabilities and limitations. And here's where I introduce you to a fake app we're building. I'll use it for some examples. It's a meal planner app. It features a cute cat. It helps, hopefully, with my meal planning goals and help illustrate some of the concepts. And it's being transparent here about what it can and can't do. And then there's consistency, and that's about predictability. Knowing an AI system will behave reliably across similar situations. When someone behaves unpredictably in real life, we obviously don't want to do business with them, and we certainly probably don't want to be in a relationship with them at all. AI consistency means the system will react similarly under similar conditions, and that allows people to anticipate behavior, reducing anxiety and building trust. Now, it may not give exactly the same response every time, especially with large language models, but the overall behavior can't be too divergent. So even the meal planner cat needs to feel consistent how it interacts with you. I was worried about whether or not this font would be visible, but yeah, looks like it is. Okay. Sorry, people at the back. Human control means humans have clear authority over AI systems and not the other way around. In practice, this translates to mechanisms like overrides, adjustable settings, opt-outs. Good AI experience design ensures that humans always know they're in control and are actually in control. In our case here, there's a dismiss button. You can use the cat icon to bring it back again. It's very simple. You know you can get on with your day without having to use the AI. Another example is things like autocorrect and autocomplete functions that let users dismiss suggestions, allowing users to undo actions and offer feedback when AI gets something wrong. This keeps the final decisioning with the human, and using the AI is like an informed aid. Here, the meal planner app hasn't provided a good meal plan, but you can always go and get the old ones, and it notes, like, well, what do you do better next time? And autonomy is about empowering human autonomy rather than simply automating everything. It should support independent decision-making of the human, enhancing our ability to act without limiting our freedom. And here's the cat is providing more menus rather than just saying, oh, here's one thing. So you try and increase or provide new permutations rather than limiting options. And a useful design metaphor is the co-pilot, as described by Microsoft's design principles. The user is the pilot and the AI is the co-pilot. And the AI should complement the human rather than replace them. And the human pilot has ultimate authority over the journey, but the co-pilot is, great assistance. And finally, to be trustworthy, you need to be competent. In this context, competency means AI reliably accomplishes the tasks it's been set. However, competency isn't about absolute perfection, but clarity around its capabilities and limits. And that loops us around to being transparent, because, of course, Google's AI search has got a really good history of being competent. Anyway, studies have shown that the more intelligent and connected the experience is, the better and more trustworthy. Several of the studies have noted that these illusionary relationships can evoke real feelings of trust and companionship. Users often expect a level of authenticity from an AI interaction, even though they know it's not really a real being. And when an AI acts in a natural and connected manner, it actually helps also build that trust. In fact, if AI violates the expected persona or behaviors, people actually feel betrayal and loss of trust. So it brings us on to the next part of human and AI experience and design, and that's connection. How are we doing? Ooh, I might make it. Connection is all about making it a more relational kind of experience. And I think here we get kind of opinionated and start to understand our users really well, because we go from function to emotion. And we need to go from function to emotion because systems that are technically great but emotionally alienating are no better than what we've had for years. And we need to move beyond that if we want to create a truly symbiotic experience. Of course, a lot of this connection is built from basic UI and UX kind of anthropomorphism, which is obviously closer to UI UX design. So what kind of character do you want to create? What kind of voice do you want to give them? Do you have a backstory? Do they have likes, dislikes, friends? What other animations or things do they partake in? You also make sure you choose the right kind of language. You maybe wouldn't give a cute cat a robot voice. That would make no sense. And also we want to remember this level of connection must be proportional to the amount you want to use an application or site. I don't want to build up a really detailed relationship with something I'm going to use once a year, unless I should be using it more often, really. Imagine you filling out your tax return via AI, and it starts up with this kind of nonsense. That's not helping. Then we've got one of the biggest, I think, is personalization. We can do a lot through things like context, understanding, memory, and fine-tuning, a way to get better connection with users. Now, context is really simple. Some of it will come through memory, but actually a lot of it can come through things like the browser agent and also, registration details and things like that. For example, if I go and ask Amazon what films are streaming, I would expect it knows I'm in the UK, and I expect that it's useful context here and won't get me films that aren't available in my region. And that's such a basic trick that automatically makes everything feel a little bit more connected. And of course, AI systems can enhance user engagement by remembering the last interactions they've had and personalizing responses accordingly. This approach fosters a sense of kind of recognition and appreciation, and it strengthens the AI-user relationship. Now, a global law firm I'm working for at the moment, they want their system to improve over time, so we're getting it to remember the kind of legal jurisdictions and the rules, trading rules in different countries, and start to actually improve that service over time. And you can show the AI is fed the right kind of prompts to understand the context based on that memory and judge the appropriate kind of interactions. And then you can also do things like fine-tune into your domain, your particular domain you're working, to better suit your AI to the problem at hand, which automatically makes it feel a bit more custom and personal, even if it's not genuine personalization. And from my experience with clients and kind of the users and members of staff, a little goes a long way with personalization to really helping make a connected experience. And anticipatory action is another way of creating connection. Anticipatory AI, oh God, that's a long word, predicts user needs and act proactively, enhancing the user experience and reducing kind of effort and creating a sense of being understood. If you're listening to your users all the time is too creepy, you can at least take some of that memory and start to come up with things like notifications, home screen suggestions. Here we see a notification go, oh, you're probably just about out of onions. Would you like me to write a shopping list? Now, emotional expression is a trickier topic because we've had a number of embarrassing gaffes with this. Appropriate expression of AI in interactions can be great. It can be fantastic, and it can help build connection. But if you get it wrong, it's really bad. And artificial emotional intelligence, which is a thing, requires contextual learning in order for it to be appropriate. Take this simple example, friendly chatbot. The chatbot is also HAL now. So this kind of works. This feels like a good example. And then here's a rival meal planner app to the meal planner cat. This is not an appropriate response, I think. You see, it's not got it right, and instead of being contrite and saying, I'm sorry about that, it goes, lol. And we have had these kind of AI interactions. This is sort of clearly fabricated, but we've seen this kind of thing happen. And also, how you actually deal with redress, how you deal with what happens when stuff goes wrong, is a key part of AI interactions. And some of the frameworks, like the Microsoft HAX framework, actually cover that really well. Now, adaptive AI experiences really help user experience by actually providing more autonomy and control, by actually helping empower users more safely and progressively. So this actually involves handing over more control to users over time and offering challenges that are appropriately matched to their skills. And that kind of gives a sense of mastery and growth. Now, a good example is in video games, where if you start getting really good at video games, actually some of them make themselves harder. It's adaptive difficulty. And then, or if you're like me, you just die all the time, and it just makes it easier and easier and easier. So in app terms, you can start to offer fewer handholds and hints as the user starts to really get the hang of it, and then start maybe giving them into some of the power features over time. Don't just sandblast them with it. And this helps build that autonomy and also connection. And one of the ones that's just not really sophisticated is avoiding delays, having slow AI. Users appreciate prompt responses, may become very frustrated if AI's performance is inhibited in some way. If your AI is slower to use, like this, than just navigating or using your phone or an app, then you've messed up. But you can also introduce the illusion of progress with some visual cues. So I did this with an app that has hundreds of thousands of users. It was very early in the OpenAI days, and the APIs were pretty sluggish. So we had some pre-cached responses while we got an answer, and also give some typing animations, things like that. I gave it the feeling of interactivity, so it feels like it's snappier than it was. Of course, you take the complexity of the interaction into account, because You may be doing something very, very sophisticated, like Google's deep research is really, really slow, but it shows you it's thinking as it's going, and you know it's doing something really complex and cool, and I'm not going to pay $200 a month for the Pro Edition. And the final bit is then, well, how do we wrap this all up? Is actually make it beneficial. So this third act is about benefit, which I think is tricky to pin down. I'll try and give an example here. Imagine an AI gambling app. It's perfect. It builds a connection. It feels trustworthy. It's lovable and delightful. But beneath it all, it's using subtle nudges, exploiting cognitive biases and things like that, and it's teaching, kind of urging you to gamble beyond your comfort zones. And that kind of AI, although it performs really well, it looks really slick, feels really good, it's failing society. True prosperity with AI really requires it not to be superficially appealing, but actually genuinely beneficial. So I mentioned earlier it's not an AI security talk. This is also not an AI ethics talk. That's a massive can of worms. But if you want to talk about AI ethics later, come and grab me. However, benefit is incredibly difficult to pin down. Humans have trouble articulating what they do and don't want. Our values are often complex, context-dependent, contradictory, quite often implicit rather than explicitly stated. I mean, we rely on things like common sense, shared understanding, and a vast amount of unspoken background knowledge to process dealing with people in our lives. That's really hard for us to formalize in an AI. For an example, don't cause harm. Harm's really broad. Do you mean emotional distress, economic disruption? Do you mean preventing somebody from making a bad choice, which then limits user autonomy? So in recent work examples, I had to build something that pulled important events from vast documents. And the first question is, well, what's an important event? Because there's thousands of these events. And we just know. That's not very helpful. So we had to figure out, and some of this is tacit knowledge. People have a tacit knowledge of how some things are important or not, or things are right or not. And that's really hard to encode in apps. And also, AI doesn't have to be always in your face. AI is best when it's always being transparent. It's kind of not being in your way. Remember, nobody goes to the internet thinking, I want to use an app or a website. They have a goal. They want to learn something. They want to play a game. They want to buy something. They want to do something else. They want to gamble, maybe. Who knows? The app is the vehicle and not the goal. And great technology vanishes into the background and leaves us what the magic of what we can achieve. So knowing when AI is of benefit and when to just step back and not use AI is actually an act of ultimate restraint. But it's also really hard to measure benefit. There's several different things you can think of. Well, one of them is user satisfaction, and we mentioned before about the gambling app. Well, that's kind of not a very good measure. There's task performance, if you're actually completing a task on your computer, and there's measurable outcomes, things like weight loss, smoking cessation, things like that. But it's really, really harmful to have an app that's really, really good, got really good user satisfaction, but just doesn't actually provide any real objectives or goals. So I'd say just think about how your AI impacts on your users' behavior, not just satisfaction. Example, social media algorithms. People might love social media. It's enjoyable, but it might encourage doom scrolling, polarization, and things like that. So think about what behaviors you're encouraging with your AI. And of course, there's a fundamental tension between maximizing profit, be that sales and engagement, and genuinely benefiting people. Ethical AI should prioritize genuine benefit over business goals. Now, I don't think people's CEOs are going to enjoy that fact, but that's kind of the way it is. And finally, I think getting some kind of external governance. Don't mark your own homework on this. Get some external governance and checks and balances, because it's given the capacity for things like subtle manipulation of things to go wrong. It's really important to have governance internally and externally. So now we're here, almost to the end. I want to answer the question, how do we design for a symbiotic future? Those memories of great interactions that last. You return to certain sites or services, something that shows the true benefits of AI in our lives, the rare and beautiful moments, and what makes technology truly lovable. It isn't just functional, it's thoughtfully designed, it's empathetic, it's ethically grounded. It's technology we willingly embrace because it feels right for us, and it enriches our experience, supports our goals, and aligns with our deepest values. We're not aiming for perfection or even close to it, because this isn't definitive. It's not a calculator. We're not asking something to do 1 + 1. It's much more contextually dependent. We can't pin it down 100% because it's far more human and nuanced form of technology and far, far different from websites of old. But I hope we've learned that our lovable interactions respect our boundaries, understand us, and enhance our lives without overstepping. They feature seamless interactions, no friction, just flow. But I can't expect you to remember all these points I've been over today, so I'll help you by giving you a couple of resources to check out on your own time. There's Google's People in AI Research Guidebook, or PAIR. This is brilliant. It's a comprehensive guidebook for designing human-centered AI products. It's a simple framework to help you get started with, as a lot of Google's ones are. There's Microsoft's Human and AI Experience, or HAX framework. And what this does, it lets you design for how it behaves upon initial use, during normal interaction, what happens when things go wrong, and how it learns over time. It emphasizes doing things like setting clear expectations, giving users control and feedback loops. I personally use this framework a lot. I recommend people having a go with this framework. If you're doing any AI implementation and you're not using something like this, please do give it a go. And there's IBM's AI Essentials framework, which centers on AI human context models, shows that AI systems are kind of built around human needs, context, and ethical values. It talks about the design foundations of trust, purpose, and value, analogous of what we've talked about here today. And it goes into the characteristics of AI and human experience design around learning, human-like interactions, understanding, and reasoning. And conveniently, just to underline the title of his talk, I swear I didn't know this before I wrote it, he talks about symbiotic relationships. I feel validated now. I'm glad that IBM agrees with me. Now, design with purpose is key. This means adopting a framework or creating your own based on research or existing works. I'd start with something like one of these personally just to get you going. But intentionally building human-centered values into AI design. We can build technology that doesn't just support individuals, it elevates society, it creates experiences that are enriching, empowering, and truly lovable. Which brings us to the epilogue. Let's create a future worth falling for. Being through an emotional time, no tears, please. But joking aside, I think it's really important, in my opinion, that we think about this, because AI has such a power for good or for ill, and it can go really, really wrong. I mean, of course, first thing that people think about when AI goes wrong is the Terminator and Skynet. As a side note, I think Terminator maybe was the first version of ChatGPT Deep Search. He did a very good job of hunting down the Sarah Connors. Although I say it probably does need to work a little bit on its human connection. It's pretty rude. Imagine if it had said, oh yes, please come back later, so instead it'd been a much different movie, I think. But it's not going to be AI taking over that's going to cause us problems. It's more likely intentionally bad uses of AI as well. It'll cause some harm, things like Meta and X. However, I think the unintentionally bad uses of AI will be the greatest source of problems in our world. So I think we can do something about this to stem the great potential source of AI and shitification, the kind of stuff that happens to the web, by following some of these ideas and frameworks we could discuss today. So when it comes to symbiotic futures, it's really important that our AI relationships are genuinely symbiotic and not parasitic, because from a distance, they can look almost the same, but there really has to be a mutual benefit. So avoid too many ethical questions. I'm going to leave you some thoughts and questions for your own time that I'd encourage you in your teams to go over. Did you design this intentionally? Do you think what you're doing is beneficial or exploitative? Would it feel connected to it? Does it do anything that undermines trust? I challenge you to go over these questions with your team, and this simple step might stop your AI project from becoming an unintentional, next AI experience disaster story that hits in the news. Kind of like this. So, of course, a lot of, I see big tech, and I don't have a lot of hope for the future. But that doesn't mean that we, the developers here, can't do something about it. We can use these frameworks, questions, and yardsticks to actually build a better experience. And hopefully you'll take one or two things away from this talk, or maybe at least you've drank your coffee and woken up a little bit, ready for a more interesting session later. And if I've taken anything away from my work with clients and the tech community on AI, it's the greatest AI power may be just knowing when not to use it. Thank you, everybody. If you'd like to connect with me, here's the QR code again. Remember, every great relationship is built on three things: trust, love, and the belief that we are better off together.